All right, so today I'm going to go over how I made this skull pen on the lathe. Okay, so today I'm going to take you through the assembly of this skull pen. Now this kit I got off of Penn State. There are, all kinds of pen companies out there that have this that you can order from online, even on Amazon. I also picked up the appropriate bushings because every time you get a pen, you're going to need the bushings that go with it. Some bushings are transferable between them, but I've found that a lot of the pens I'm picking lately all seem to have their own bushings, so you end up with a large collection of bushings. And then this blank was part of a 6-set blank that I got, and I think these colors will go really well, especially this skull has some rubies in its eyes, so I think this color will go really well. So let's get to assembling the pen. Here are all the components for this particular pen. I'm going to use this blank for this color one and this other blank right here. Now I'm debating on making a third. I actually have 3 pens, so I may, I do like that one. So yeah, maybe that one. Might go with those. So there's my parts. Now the first thing I have to do is go ahead and measure my inserts and make them about a 1/16 or so longer. And you can see that there's 2 different sizes. There's an upper and a lower insert, so I'll have a little bit of extra blank left over once I'm done. Now I'm set to go to the bandsaw. At the bandsaw, you see I just decided on 2 blanks, so I'm going to cut them down. And I have the mark on just one of them. The other one's obviously going to be exactly the same, so I just follow through with that. So I'm just going to do 2 of the skull pens instead of all 3 at once. Now over at the drill press, you'll notice that I ended up doing the 4 blanks, the upper and the lower of each color, but one actually broke, so I ended up doing just 1 skull pen, which is okay. I have plenty of other blanks, but I will just do them later on. Now the brass inserts are already sanded, and I have it all drilled out ready for them. I put a little water inside the blanks so that it's going to activate the Gorilla Glue. And then once I have that, it doesn't take much water, you don't have to soak it, so just put a tiny bit in. You can see I use a Q-tip for that. I put a little bit of the Gorilla Glue on the blank itself, and then I'm just using just a nail punch there, works perfect for as an insert tool for these. And I put a little bit of Gorilla Glue at the front end of the brass tube, so as it inserts it spreads the glue, and I spin it as I'm putting it in there. Now the nice thing about the nail punch is that when you push it all the way in, it puts just about a 1/16 of an inch deep. It's just about a perfect setup, about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch. So it's just about a perfect setup for inserting brass tubes into the blanks. Eventually one day I'll probably buy an insert tool for the brass tubes. But for now, this works pretty good. Once the glue is dry, it's back over the drill press where I have my barrel cleaning pen mill kit set up. And I'm just going to bring this down until I can just see the brass tubing, and then I stop. Don't go any further than that. Now, the nice thing about this is that the barrel cleaning part of it inserts into the barrel, lines it up, and makes it perfectly squared up with the barrel. So once you put it on a lathe, everything is squared to that point. The way I set it up is I actually insert the pen blank onto the barrel cleaning tube. That lines up my pen blank with it, and then I bring it on over, drop it down, and clamp down the vise so that everything is parallel to my pen mill. Now some of them where I have the Gorilla Glue actually extending out into the hole, it makes it rather tight, so I have to first drill into it and get that out of the way, then line up everything and set my vise down so that it's all parallel. Finally, everything is ready to be mounted up onto the lathe, and I have the appropriate bushings in between each one, so I'm just going to mill it down to those bushings. I start out with a roughing gouge that's cleaned up pretty good, and that gets the blanks down relatively quick. When the blanks are down to my rough size, I actually switch over to a negative rake scraper, which is going to give me a much cleaner cut across there so I don't mess it up at all. The roughing gouge is good for getting it down to a certain point, but you want to leave it a little bit oversized in case you do get some chip out from that. The negative rake scraper is going to give a nice, clean, smooth finish. Here I switched over to my carbide tool, and this actually has a negative rake carbide tip on it. And this is the finishing tool. And I'm slowly going to work my way down to make sure that I get a nice, clean, smooth finish on everything. The nice thing about using the carbide is that you don't have to sharpen as much, because negative rake tools tend to dull out relatively quick, where the carbide ones, they last quite a bit. Once the blanks are down to pretty close to the size that I want them, this is where I'm going to start shaping them to the shape that I want. And on these, I want it to be, the barrel to be a little thicker in the center and coming down almost perfect to the bushing on each end. So that's a nice flush finish with a little bit left just for sanding. My sanding regimen starts with 220 grit dry sandpaper, and I work up to 320, 400, and then 600 with the dry sandpaper. So now I go to the micro mesh system, and I'm going to work with the coarser grit first quite a bit to make sure I get all the scratches and get everything smooth. Then from there, as each finer grit gets on there, it'll take less and less time use on there. Basically, it's just being used to polish the acrylic blank. Now you notice that I'm going to clean in between each grit, and that's just to get the slurry off there that has sort of larger grit on it. And I just want to start fresh with each grit as to fresh water and the sanding slurry that develops from that grit. Finally, I'm going to use the one-step polishing compound, and in this case I'm going to use 2 coats on it, but this stuff does a really good job of getting rid of any minute scratches that you have, leaving a perfect mirror type finish on it just about. So you place and put it on there, and I actually put too much on that cloth, so I had enough for both times. But I put it on there and I let it dry a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and turn on the lathe and use that circulating air to dry it off a little bit more, and then I'll take and these are blue paper towels, and remove whatever polishing compound is on there. Once that's done, I'll do it one more time, and the blanks will be finished. So now the fun part begins, assembling the pin. So each of the blanks takes a certain order, and because this is the first pin that I'm doing, it takes a little bit longer because you have to figure out what the order is to assemble everything, because it's really hard to disassemble them if you make a mistake. And this is my homemade pen vise here. I actually will have one coming here very soon, but for now this works really well. And I just start assembling the pins. And here is the finished pin. Okay, so it's all finished up. It really looks nice. I don't know why, but when I saw these pin kits, the skulls, I had to get the starter set, which is 3 of them, and I just like them right away. Something about a skull on top of a pin just is really nice. But these have a lot of detail in them, and I'll do some close-up shots here so that you can see that. But they're kind of a hefty pen too. It's kind of a nice pen. It's not like a slim line where it's very light and you know, doesn't fit in your hand. This fits in my hand pretty good. So I really enjoyed putting this together. It was relatively quick actually, and the pen blank is just awesome. I mean, once you get it down and polished up, it's just beautiful. So if you're looking for a Christmas present for that person that you know, is kind of like me, that is into weird stuff like this, it's definitely a cool pen to give them.